Welcome back. As I mentioned, we have a few folks here from Providence Mission Hospital. We have Dr. Ario Savarsadeh and we have Christine Riley. Well, welcome both of you to the show. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Well, we're going to start with you. And basically, you had mentioned off camera that this is the 50th anniversary of fighting cancer.
Yeah, back in 1971, Richard Nixon had declared the war on cancer on December 22nd. And so it's been 50 years since that point. Wow. And it's a war that many people aren't too familiar with. So it has killed more Americans than every U.S. casualty in war combined. So 25 million Americans have died from it. And for adults between the ages of 45 to 75, it's the #1 cause of death. Yeah. Cancer is. Mm-hmm. And so while there are a lot of things to be afraid of, really the thing that's most likely to get us is cancer. And this month marks Lung Cancer Awareness Month.
Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Okay, good. Now that you've given us a lovely overview of sort of why we're here, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a thoracic surgeon, so I specialize in treating cancers that are in the chest, particularly lung cancer and esophageal cancer, in addition to a couple of other things. I grew up in the northern suburbs of Chicago, and then I met my wife at UC Santa Barbara, so I was a gaucho. Went to med school at UC Irvine, and then I did all of my advanced training at Yale before coming back here.
Wow, wow. Well, gosh, that's impressive. And Christine, how about yourself? You're a patient advocate, so what does that mean? And then where did you come from?
So by training, I'm a registered respiratory therapist. I've been a therapist for 29 years. The last 5 years I've spent at Providence Mission Hospital and with the cancer center there, doing patient navigation and specifically for the thoracic oncology program.
Okay, all right. Now the facility is the Leonard Cancer Institute, and it's been open now for a couple of years, correct?
Yeah.
And why is that important for our community to understand that you do have a specialization building of itself?
Well, I think historically for patients in this area in particular, the South Orange County area and then just in the Southern California area, healthcare is a challenge for somebody to access. It tends to be quite fragmented, even for those that are in reasonably good health. But when you're talking about somebody that now has this serious diagnosis of a cancer, in particular lung cancer, since we're here today with regard to that, having to navigate, to use that term, those waters and to be kind of moving all over the place to get the care is really challenging, and it can lead to delays in care, which can greatly affect their outcomes for survival and their quality of life. So having everything together in one place in the community that these folks really do know, as Mission Hospital has been there for decades, it feels like home for them in a very stressful situation and brings it all together so things are done timely and they have access to all the elements of their care that they need.
Okay. Now, we do talk a lot about screening of lots of different things and not just cancer, but it's interesting because I talk to a lot of different doctors, and some will say it's a primary care situation where, maybe there should be screening done on a regular basis. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I'm a huge advocate of screening. So, screening has shown to be very effective. In the last 50 years, screening for colon cancer, for example, a colonoscopy, has reduced death from colon cancer by 50%. Okay. And so historically, we've been very good at screening for colon cancer with a colonoscopy, breast cancer with a mammogram, even for prostate cancer. And those rates, the screening rates are probably 60 to 70% of eligible adults. Okay. For lung cancer, our screening rates are actually much lower. The national average for screening for lung cancer is only 5% of eligible patients, compared to 60% for breast and colon. And actually, in California, the numbers are even worse. We are the second lowest state for screening for lung cancer. So only 1 to 2% of eligible patients are getting screened. And so we know that screening for lung cancer catches the diagnosis in an early stage before patients have symptoms where it's curable. And so the hardest part of my job is seeing a patient whose cancer is caught in a late stage and we don't have curative options for them.
Well, I would imagine that most people say with lung cancer, well, you know, I never smoked, so why would I even be susceptible to lung cancer? But that's kind of a myth.
Well, so the highest risk group are the smokers and former smokers,
Right.
and about 80% of lung cancer is attributed to smoking. There is a group of 20% of never smokers who do get lung cancer. Unfortunately, our screening guidelines, unlike for prostate or for breast, which everybody gets screened at a certain age, the screening guidelines for lung cancer are very focused on the highest risk group. So the age requirement of 50 or to 55 years old up to 75, but you have to have smoked roughly a pack a day for 20 years to be eligible for the screening test.
Okay.
But that screening test is free if you fall into that criteria.
Okay. But what needs to change in order for us to have a better screening percentage?
That's a really good question, and it's something that we kind of scratch our heads on too a little bit. So I think this is part of it. Healthcare has changed more recently. There's information on the internet. The patient and physician relationship has changed a lot too. So one of our jobs is to advocate for patients to help them make an informed decision on their own. And so part of this, I think, is going to come from the patients where they say, well, I used to smoke or I quit smoking in the last 15 years. And so I'm going to go to my doctor and say, hey, am I eligible for a lung cancer screening test? Because lung cancer is the #1 cancer death, the #1 cancer killer. It kills more people from cancer than the next 3 most common cancers combined.
I wonder if people though think that, well, we've eliminated a lot of people in terms of their smoking, so they're not smoking anymore. Even like you said, if they stopped smoking 15 years ago, there's still a very high percentage of them being susceptible to getting lung cancer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That biggest risk, though, is within the 15 years. So California, the smoking rates are low, but there's a lot of people who quit smoking, and they're the ones who are still at risk.
Okay.
And they're the ones we need to get a hold of and get them CT scans to try to catch it while it's curable.
Exactly. All right. Well, in closing, is there anything lastly you'd like to say about the Leonard Cancer Institute?
I want to give a shout out to Christine. I mean, she really is remarkable. She's kind of the patient's pit bull, so to speak. So she advocates on their behalf, and having someone to hold their hand through their cancer diagnosis, particularly with lung cancer, is really important. So we wouldn't be as good as we are without her help. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well,
Well,
it's an honor to serve these patients and help them through.
well, if people want more information, they can contact you. You have a personal email here on the screen that you can see here is christine.riley
That's right.
at stjoe.org, or they could call you if they have any questions.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining me today. I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much. We're
Thank
happy
you
to be
for
here.
having us.
All right.
All right.
And we'll be right back after this.